So Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya, and we will begin with Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So Jai Bhim and Namo Buddhaya to all. In this class today, we are going to study the part 5 of the book 3 of the Buddha and his Dhamma. In the last few weeks, we have covered the classification that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has made in terms of Dhamma, Adhamma, and Sadhamma. And we have seen the in the part 4 and part 3 what Baba Sahib Ambedkar has meant when he talked about the Dhamma and when he talked about Adhamma. And we have seen how Baba Sahib Ambedkar has wonderfully categorized and explained to us what is not Dhamma, that we have been studying in the last 8 weeks, what is not Dhamma. And it's a very categorical sort of clarification that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has given about what is not Dhamma. And previously we have studied what is Dhamma. And also there Baba Sahib Ambedkar has gone in depth about explaining what is Dhamma. So from last 3-4 months, we have been studying a very essential part of the Buddha and his Dhamma. What is Dhamma? What is Adhamma? And now we are entering into the text, which is about what is Saddhamma. So, Baba Sahib Ambedkar could have easily stopped by categorizing the Dhamma or the Buddha's teachings into Dhamma and Adhamma. And we can often wonder why Baba Sahib Ambedkar felt the need to explain and go into the classification of what is Saddhamma. And I think that is very interesting because elsewhere Baba Sahib Ambedkar has defined Saddhamma as the philosophy of the Dhamma. And some of you who have been studying in the group, we know that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has written a very important tract called the Philosophy of Hinduism. And there he goes at length into entering into the discussion on philosophy of religion. And there he studies in that particular tract Hinduism in terms of two methods. One is the method which he brings into play is the method of what he says the value of norm. And he talks about justice as a norm and the liberty, equality, and fraternity as a symbol of or the bundle of all these 3 values, which is according to Baba Sahib Ambedkar is his social philosophy, the liberty, equality, and fraternity, and the bundle of that as a justice. And then he also discusses the Hinduism in terms of another norm called the utility, whether it's useful for the society. So we have some glimpses of what can be the possible meaning in terms of Saddhamma as the philosophy of the Dhamma. And I think, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar has this mind of a pragmatic philosopher where he tried to go into the clarity, giving us as much clarity as he can. This particular part of the Buddhism in the book 3, I think is very important because it gives us a kind of the total vision, total view of the Buddha's teachings. And I think the clarification or the explanation or the presentation that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has given here in part 5 is of tremendous value for us to understand. And today I thought that I will just go with the first page, which is sort of very, very dense in terms of ideas. And we are going to study each of those sections and their subsections at length over the period of time. But I thought that, we should look at this very index of this part 5, which is titled as what is Sadhamma. And Sadhamma, as people have translated, it's the sublime Dhamma, or wondrous Dhamma, or the philosophy of Dhamma, or something. It has got a very high connotation in terms of the Indic words like bhavna and sadbhavna, and the sad has got this very lofty and very sublime ring to it. So Sadhamma, as we can see that it is a third type of a categorization that Baba Ambedkar has done to explain or to categorize the Buddha's teaching into Dhamma, Adhamma, and Saddhamma. And we have seen that the part on Dhamma was very clear in terms of explaining us as to how we should practice the Dhamma, and Adhamma as to what we should not practice. Because it's also important for us to know what is Adhamma, what is not the Dhamma. And also it's important for us to know what is the sublime, what is the wondrous, what is this, a very, I would say, deep meaning of the Dhamma in terms of Sadhamma. And therefore, I think this part 5 becomes very crucial for the students of the Buddhist Dhamma to understand in its totality. So let's begin with studying the very index of this part today before we venture on to various sections in the subsequent weeks to come. So this part 5, which is titled at what is Saddhamma, is divided into 4 sections. And these 4 sections are, the first section of this Saddhamma, what is Saddhamma, is sort of an overview of what is the Saddhamma, what is the function of Saddhamma. Because as I told you, Baba Ambedkar was very concerned about utility in terms of how it is going to be useful to the communities, how it's going to be useful to the individuals, and so on and so forth. So, of course, the section 1 is titled as the functions of Saddhamma. What is the function of Saddhamma? And I think before we enter into anything or any philosophical idea or any religious idea, we have to know what is the function of it. What is it meant to do? What is it meant for? And I think unless we have that idea or that clarity as to what is some function of Sadhamma, or what is the function of religion, or what is the function of any philosophy as it were. So unless we know that, it's very become difficult to understand the various tenets or the various details of that philosophy. So what is the function of it? What is the function of Sadhamma? And I think that's a very clear statement that Baba Ambedkar has put as a title of the section 1. And then the section 2 is about Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Prajna. So, when Baba Ambedkar talks about what is called Saddhamma, he says Dhamma. So we have studied what is Dhamma. To be Saddhamma must promote Prajna. So a Dhamma cannot be just Dhamma. If it has to become Saddhamma or sublime Dhamma or wondrous Dhamma, it must promote Prajna. And we are going to look at how Baba Ambedkar has tried to go into this section in terms of the 3 subsections of it. And they are very crucial for us to understand. And we are going to touch upon them briefly today. Then section 3 is about Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Maitri. And also, this title is very interesting, the graduation from Prajna to Maitri. Isn't it? So Dhamma has to promote Maitri if it is to be Saddhamma. And in the 4th section, Baba Ambedkar has given the title, Dhamma to be Saddhamma must pull down all social barriers. So whatever Dhamma that is, there are so many, teachings that are prevalent throughout the world. There are so many Buddhist schools, there are so many Buddhist teachers who are there all over the world. And it's very important for an Ambedkarite to understand what is the Saddhamma. And by virtue of that, it's very important for them to communicate with the world outside in terms of the vision of Baba Ambedkar. And I think nothing other than this what is Saddhamma captures the very heart of Baba Sahib's presentation of the Buddha and his Dhamma. So you see, we have seen that this part 5 of the book 3 is titled at what is Saddhamma, and we have seen that it is a following of the categorization that Baba Ambedkar has done in terms of Dhamma, Adhamma, and Saddhamma. And this section on what is Saddhamma is divided into 4 sections, and all these sections are divided into subsections. And we have seen the headings of the section. And I'm going to, as I said, that today we are going to just look at the index of this, because I think this is very important, the way Baba Ambedkar has categorized even this part 5 of the book 3 of the Buddha and Dhamma, titled at what is Saddhamma. So let's look at it one by one very briefly. So section 1, functions of Saddhamma. So what is the function of the Saddhamma? What is it that the Buddha wanted to do? What is it that the Buddha wanted to teach? What is that the Buddha wanted to do in the world? What is in the nutshell is the function of the Saddhamma? Of course, we know that the function of the Dhamma is to end the dukkha, from dukkha to mahasukha. That is what is the teaching of the Buddha. All the methods that the Buddha taught are about how we evolve, how we end the suffering and experience that sublime bliss, which is called mahasukha of Nibbana. And we have seen in Baba Sahib Ambedkar's description of it as the real happiness, or the mahasukha, consists in experiencing the Nibbana. And what is Nibbana? Is the doing away of the raga, dosa, and moha that we have seen. But here, Baba Ambedkar has taken another perspective to present to us the function of Saddhamma. And the first function of the Saddhamma is to cleanse the mind of its impurities. Now we know that the Vimala, or the purity, or Vishuddhi, is a very dominant theme in Buddhism, because according to the Buddha, we suffer because our minds are tainted by the 3 poisons of raga, dosa, and moha. They are further categorized into many mental sort of defilements that we all have, like jealousy, like pride, and excessive greed, violence, and so on and so forth. So the function of Saddhamma, the very first function of the Saddhamma, is to cleanse the mind of its impurities. And we have seen that when Baba Ambedkar is discussing what is Dhamma, he has exclusively taught about the purity of mind. And to attain the purity of mind is the Dhamma. So, if anybody asks us the purpose of the Saddhamma, it's a very clear and categorical answer, the function. I don't know whether other religions can answer like this. If we ask them the question about what is the purpose of your religion, or what is the purpose of your philosophy, or what is the purpose of your tradition, if they say the function of our tradition is to cleanse the mind of its impurity, it's nothing but Buddhism. So I think it's very important for us to understand these very important words that are included in the section 1, the function of Saddhamma, in terms of to cleanse the mind of its impurities. And we have seen that the theme of purity of mind, the purity of body, the purity of speech is a recurring theme, not only in the Buddha and his Dhamma, but throughout all the Buddhist texts. You pick up any Buddhist text, and it's going to talk about the purification of mind, the purification of body, the purification of speech. All the precepts, all the meditation practices, all the teachings of the Buddha can be are leading up to this point as to how we cleanse the mind of its impurities. So anything which is adding impurities in the minds, which is making our minds further dull, whether if they are making our minds further further delusional, further impure, then it is not the Dhamma. So I think we are going to look at this theme in the coming weeks, but suffice it to keep in mind at this stage is to understand that to cleanse the mind of its impurities is one of the function of the Saddhamma. The second function of Saddhamma is to make the world a kingdom of righteousness. Now here, this phrase is very important because this kingdom of righteousness can be translated as Dhamma. So the purity of mind and to make the world a kingdom of righteousness. And this is very important for us to understand because, it is not just about purifying our own minds, which is, of course, one of the functions of the Dhamma, but another function of the Dhamma is to make this world a kingdom of righteousness. So, when we look at the functions of the other religions, they have this function to end up in heaven or in hell, depending on what you do here. So it is not about this world. It is not about creating the kingdom of righteousness here, but in some imaginary afterlife that, the other religions aim at creation of the kingdom of righteousness. But here, Baba Ambedkar makes it very clear, and that is a recurrent theme in the Millionth Prashna. That is a recurrent theme in very many Buddhist texts of how we make this world a better place, how we make this world a more harmonious place, how we make this world into a more peaceful, more loving world. In a sense, how to make this world a Dhammarajya or kingdom of righteousness. In Pali, it can be translated Dhammarajya. So you see, it's very categorically clear here as to the functions of Saddhamma, and we have to bear these two functions of the Saddhamma in our mind and study them very deeply. Number one, to cleanse the mind of its impurities, and we are going to look at it in the subsequent classes as to what does it mean by the cleaning of mind of its purity, and we have already seen a lot about it in the section called what is Dhamma. And the second, the kingdom of righteousness. It can be the Buddha's vision of the world in terms of, and in Baba Sahib's word, in vision in terms of Prabuddha Bharat, or a society based on justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, so on and so forth. So this is about section 1. Section 2, and I think this is very crucial, and we have to again study it very deeply, and we are going to do that in the subsequent sessions. You see the note here, Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must promote Prajna. And now there are many definitions of Prajna in Buddhism, and it's called Jnana, it's called insight, it's called Vipassana, so on and so forth. So here Baba Ambedkar is again classifying or qualifying what does it mean to promote Prajna. And this word is very important. There is cultivation of Prajna and there is promotion of Prajna. So in the world, we need to promote Prajna. Because in order to have these two functions of the Saddhamma to be activated, it must promote Prajna. What is Prajna? We have a lot of discussion on that in the previous sections, previous chapters, previous classes. But here, these 3 subsections on Dhamma to be Saddhamma, must promote Prajna, are very important. So what Baba Ambedkar says, Dhamma is Saddhamma. When it is Saddhamma, it makes learning open to all. You see, this learning or understanding is not the privilege of a particular class of people. It's not a privilege of a section in the society. The learning is so important. At the time of the Buddha, he was somebody who promoted learning for all, without taking into account where they come from, what kind of the social background they came from, what kind of economic background they came from, what kind of a political background they came from. It didn't matter. What mattered was the promotion of learning open to all. So if the Dhamma is to be Saddhamma, it's always promote, it always make the learning open to all, none excluding. And that shows the spirit of the Dhamma, as to everything is open to all. The learning is open to all. It's not the privilege of a few people. It's not a privilege of a select group of people. It's not a privilege of somebody who claims that they are divine. There is a very beautiful story about the Buddha. He said at the end of his life that there is nothing. And in Pali, it's called Acharya's Mutti, means the fist of the teacher. He says that there is not, I am holding nothing in terms of teaching. I have given it all. So, you see this fist, which is like a closed thing. And one of the interpretation of dukkha is a closedness, is to keep the things confined, crowded. That is one of the meaning of dukkha. Because the kha means space and du means, the crowdedness, and sukha means the openness of the space. There is nothing crowded there. Everything is so open. Everything is so pliant. Everything is so malleable there. There is nothing fixed there. So you see, the Buddha said that, I have not hold anything. There is no secret that I have hold in terms of teaching. It's all open. It's all open for everybody to see. It is not private to a group of people. It's not private to a certain section of the society. So learning, and this is very fundamental for us to understand, that Dhamma is Saddhamma when it makes learning open to all. And therefore, following from it, it follows to us that, how we can make Buddhism, open for all, open to all. How do we make Buddha's teaching open for all? How do we make the knowledge open for all? Not only Buddha's teachings, but whatever knowledge there is open to all. Not making it private to a certain class of people or certain group of people. Not holding anything in the fist, in the closed fist, but making it open, giving it away. And we are going to, of course, look into this section in the subsequent classes. The subsection 2 says that Dhamma is Saddhamma when it teaches that mere learning is not enough. It may lead to pedantry. You see, this is very sublime. A graduation from learning to practicing. So what is that, if we have seen it in the previous sections in terms of what is not Dhamma, even if we know the thousands of books, and if we do not know how to practice it, and we have seen the example of Patisen very beautifully, that he knew one gatha and he practiced it thoroughly, and he realized the truth. He moved from dukkha to sukha. And here, I think is very clear what Baba Ambedkar says, that, the learning should be open for all, but mere learning is not enough. So we can be the reader of thousands of books. We have mastered so many subjects. We know so many things, but if we don't know how to practice it, if we don't know how to bring that knowledge in our lives, that's useless. It may lead to pedantry. And we see around us all over the places that there are many people who practice this pedantry, using the language, using the beautiful sort of the sublime language to promote the religion of what is called the words, but not the superstitions, but not promoting the graduation from dukkha to sukha, or the freedom of mind, cheto vimukti, so on and so forth. So let me read it again, because it's very intricate to understand these sections. It begins with Dhamma is Saddhamma when it makes learning open to all. So learning should be open to all. But Dhamma is Saddhamma when it teaches that mere learning is not enough. It may lead to pedantry. And then it graduates into the third subsection. And I think that's always very important for us to understand the sequence of ideas in Baba Saheb Ambedkar's writings. And here, the sequence of idea turn into the subsection 3, where Baba Saheb Ambedkar says, Dhamma is Saddhamma when it teaches that what is needed is pradnya. So mere knowledge, mere learning is not enough. What is needed is pradnya, the insight, the understanding. Nya means to know, and pradnya, is connotes the the higher stage of knowing, pradnya, like jnana. So This section 2 is all the more very important when we look at it in terms of Dhamma to be Saddhamma, must promote Prajna, and it has got 3 subsections. One is about learning open to all. Mere learning is not enough. It may lead to pedantry. And third, Dhamma is Saddhamma when it teaches that what is needed is Prajna. So this is a Prajna section of the Saddhamma. The section 3 is about Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Maitri. And this is also very important sort of a section in the Buddha and Dhamma, because it's we are going deeper and deeper and deeper into the Buddha's teachings here, very deep. It's like gradually enter into the subtleness of the Dhamma. And here it's in the section 3, it becomes very clear as to what Baba Ambedkar means by Saddhamma, or what Buddha meant by Saddhamma. Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Maitri. You see the words like promote Prajna, promote Maitri. So it's a promotion. It's spreading it. It's bringing it into world, because it's not there. The Prajna is not there. We have to cultivate it, bring it in the world. The Maitri, we have to promote it in the world. So the section 3, so Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Maitri, has been detailed out like this. 1. Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches that mere Prajna is not enough. Even the Prajna is not enough. Prajna is important, is needed, but is not enough. What a depth, what a sequencing of ideas that we see here in this part 5. Baba Sahib says that Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches that mere Prajna is not enough. Mere Prajna also is not enough. Mere learning is also not enough. It must be accompanied by Sila. It must be accompanied by Sila. And we have seen a thorough discussion on Sila in the previous sections of the Buddha and Dhamma. We have seen it at length and at depth. It must be accompanied by Sila. You see the use of the word. Prajna alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by Sila. And the second subsection goes like this: Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches. What it teaches, that besides Prajna and Shil, what is necessary is Karuna. So we need Prajna, Shil, and Karuna. And I think this is very interesting, because Baba Ambedkar in the 22 vows has said that Prajna, Shil, Karuna. And these 3 words, the Trinity, that forms the basis of Baba Sahib Ambedkar's formulation of Dhamma, but it goes deeper than that. It touches on the very important value that Baba Sahib Ambedkar cherished, and he thought that is the essence of the Buddha's Dhamma. And that's in the subsection 3. Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches that more than Karuna, what is necessary is Maitri. You see, the Buddha's Dhamma is often talked in terms of Karuna, compassion, Karuna. Yes, it is important. It is important to practice compassion. It is important to practice, going into the world and removing suffering of the people. But what is necessary is Maitri. Now you see, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has put the value of Maitri even above Karuna. So in the scheme or understanding of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, what is important is Metta, Maitri. And we have seen that there are 4, limitless states of mind called Maitri, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So the Metta comes first. Without Metta, you cannot have Karuna. Without Metta, you cannot have Mudita, sympathetic joy. Mudita is a sympathetic joy. Without Metta, Maitri, we cannot have Upekka. We cannot dwell in that impartiality that the Buddha asks us to dwell in. So you see, there are basically 4 important words here. Baba Sahib begins with Prajna, learning is important. We all have to learn, but not just by rote, but we have to understand. We have to know it. And knowing it is not enough. It must be accompanied by Shila. So we have two words, Prajna and Sheel. And then Baba Sahib Ambedkar goes into that there is a necessity of Karuna. So Karuna. And he says that, more than Karuna, what is necessary is Maitri. So four values that Baba Sahib Ambedkar is talking here. And they are so gradually communicated to us, the value of Maitri. And I think that's very important for us to understand the graduation and the scheme of Baba Sahib Ambedkar in terms of, this section 3. And we have seen in other writings of writing and speeches of Baba Sahib Ambedkar that he has equated Metta with Shila. And he has said that the Shila or Maitri is the foundation of everything good in the world. In fact, he says that the Maitri is the foundation of social democracy. And without Maitri, there cannot be social democracy. Without social democracy, there cannot be, political or economic democracy. Such was the importance of Maitri. Such is the value of Maitri that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has traced in his life. So these four words, Prajna, Sheel, Karuna, are important. And we have seen that they are featuring everywhere when Baba Sahib Ambedkar talks about our Buddha's teachings. And then he says that, what is necessary is Maitri. So Maitri, and we have to understand this value of Maitri, the Metta, very deeply as an Ambedkarite Buddhist. What does it mean to practice Metta? What does it mean to promote Maitri? What does it mean to bring Maitri in the world? So you see, that's where we have seen the section 3 heading towards in terms of Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote Maitri. And I think the section 4 that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has so beautifully put it here, and the language changes here. The language of the previous two sections was Dhamma to be Saddhamma. But here, the language is Dhamma to be Saddhamma must pull down all social barriers. So you see, the word used is Dhamma is Saddhamma. Dhamma is Saddhamma. Dhamma is Saddhamma. And here, Dhamma to be Saddhamma. In order for Dhamma to become Saddhamma, to become the real Dhamma, to become the sublime Dhamma, must pull down all social barriers. This is so critical for us to understand in terms of Buddhism as to what was it that the Buddha had understood. He understood that there is no fundamental difference between the human beings. And equality was a very deep and sublime finding of the Tathagata of the, at that time. Because before that, the society was, never believed that the human beings are equal. They believed that they are equal in terms of their groups, and even in their groups, there were certain hierarchy. So putting the individual at the center and the individual's relationship instead of the individual as a member of a group and his membership with a group qualifying him to relate with other human beings was a norm at that time. And the Buddha challenged that. Buddha challenged that very norm, saying that, the individual and its relationship, his relationship or her relationship with other individual is important. So anything that creates barriers between the two individuals, between the two human beings, all those barriers must be pulled down if the Dhamma is to be Saddhamma. So you see, mere Prajna is not enough. Your mere Maitri is not enough. They are important. They are necessary. They are not something, what is called additional. They are very much essential for the Dhamma to function in the world in terms of the cleaning the mind and make the world a kingdom of righteousness. But the section 4 goes into much more deeper than that. It says Dhamma to be Saddhamma must pull down all social barriers. So the subsections go like this. Dhamma to be Saddhamma must break down barriers between man and man, which means also barriers between the man and the women. You see, there are so many barriers between the human beings. So many barriers of class, of caste, of nation, of language, of ethnicity and whatnot, of the economic classes and so on and so forth. So many barriers that doesn't let one man, one human being relate to other human being. And how one human being can relate with other human being is when the Dhamma becomes a Dhamma. So removing all, breaking down all barriers. The word is very important, breaking down. Now, breaking down needs a lot of energy. It needs, the use of words is very crucial. It's a revolutionary. We cannot break down the barriers without energy, without efforts. Without a program, you cannot break down the barriers between the human beings. It's not simply possible. So, Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must break down. It says must break down barriers between man and man, between any human beings, whatever barriers there are. The Dhamma should be able to, resolve all those barriers. It must break down all those. So wherever Dhamma enters, wherever the Buddha's teaching enters, it should have the quality of breaking down the barriers. So the Dhamma is like a great solvent. If you bring it into the society, it should be effectively able to, what we can say, break down the barriers between the human beings. Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must teach that worth and not birth is the measure of man. You see, there are a lot of ways by which the people are measured in terms of wealth, in terms of whatnot. There are many measurements, and we all have these scales in our minds. We all have these measuring scales in our mind. In the Indian context, we have this measuring scale of caste, and we try to measure each people depending on that scale of caste. Who is he? Who is she? What is he? What is she? So on and so forth. Even within the Buddhist communities, we have a lot of the scales to which we apply to other human beings, And, not birth or not wealth. What is important for the Dhamma to be Saddhamma is the worth of a human being, is the value of a human being. The worth can have many meanings, but one of the meanings is the value of a man is more important than where they are born, in which country they are born, which class they are born. The value, the individual's value, the worth of a man is the measure of a man. And that's very important, that not the birth or where we come from is important. What we are doing, how we are living our lives is important. The value of a human being is important. And the third, which I think is the culmination of what is Saddhamma, Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must promote equality between man and man. It not only break down the barriers between the human beings, but at the same time, it should promote the equality between the human beings, between one man and another man, between one woman and another, one man and another woman. You see this part 5, what is Saddhamma, when taken together in terms of the holistic plan that Baba Ambedkar has given in the index of this part 5, and we are going to look at each of these at depth in details in the subsequent classes. But suffice here is to understand the very scheme of Baba Ambedkar as to how he had this philosophy of Dhamma, or the wondrous Dhammas captured into these 4 sections, which I'm going to, before we open up for the discussion, going to summarize for you all that section 1 is all about the function of Saddhamma, and according to Baba Ambedkar, the function of Saddhamma are twofold. One is to clean the mind of its impurities, and second, to make a word Dhamma Rajya, or kingdom of righteousness. Then Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must promote Prajna, and promotion of Prajna means learning open to all. It's not private to any one particular class. It's open to all. But mere learning is not enough. Just knowing the words, just reading something is not enough. We should be able to put it into practice. Otherwise, it may lead to pedantry. And Dhamma is Saddhamma when it teaches that what is needed is Prajna. So more than learning, what is needed is Prajna, the understanding. So understanding is more important than just accumulating the learning. Then Dhamma, to be Saddhamma, must promote Maitri, which means that mere Prajna is not enough. It must be accompanied by Shila. Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches that besides Prajna and Shila, what is needed is Karuna. And Dhamma is Saddhamma only when it teaches that more than Karuna, what is needed is Maitri. And we have had a small discussion on these three subsections of the section 3. And the section 4 is, of course, very revolutionary in terms of Baba Ambedkar, goes very deep into the Buddha's Dhamma and touches where it matters. He says that Dhamma to be Saddhamma must break down barriers between man and man. It should break down all the barriers between the human beings, all the barriers between the human beings. Dhamma to be Saddhamma must teach that worth and not birth is the measure of man. So we should never measure a man or a human being in terms of their birth, but in terms of their worth. And I think that's a very critical sentence. And the third, the last part of it is very revolutionary, and it is the heart of the Buddha's teaching. What is it? Dhamma to be Saddhamma must promote equality between man and man. So what I thought today was, in terms of our class, is to introduce you to the very scheme, the schemata of this part 5, what is Saddhamma. And we have seen that this categorization in the scheme of Baba Ambedkar is very important in terms of Dhamma, Adhamma, and Saddhamma. And today we have seen the key to this chapter, to this part 5 of the book 3 of the Buddha's Dhamma, what is Saddhamma. And the subsequent classes, we are going to study each of the section, the subsections deeply as Baba Ambedkar has gone into them. So I will stop here for today, and we will open the class for any discussion. Anything?
It's a very profound this indexes, and in nutshell, can we say that it's all about the doctrine of the good?
Doctrine of the
good.
Yes. Yes, Saddhamma is the doctrine of a good, you can say. And it's a very beautiful word, Saddhamma.
In the stages, in this index, I am visualizing the roadmap.
Yes.
The roadmap that is leading to pull down all the barriers and equating man to man.
Yes.
And through the roadmap, the starting with learning to all, and then pedantry, and then Pranayama, then followed by Shila, then Karuna, then Maitri, and all these things leads to pull down all the barriers and equating man to man.
Yes.
So this is my reflection. I hope.
Good reflection. Good, very good reflection. Very good.
Mangeshi,
yes,
very nicely explained. I'm really very happy that you are taking so much of efforts to take these lectures. They are really wonderful. This Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, all these are the Brahma Viharas, which are explained very much in detail, but Baba Saheb Ambedkar has given us so much so nicely he has given in Buddha and his Dhamma, that it is up to the understanding of common man. Like everybody should understand this and apply in their day-to-day life. And when it is applied in day-to-day life, you get a really very wonderful experiences by using this Metta, Karuna, and Mudita. And I myself have experienced all these things. I think whoever will follow, they will definitely experience the things. Everybody should read this and apply in their life. That's what I would like to say.
Beautiful, beautiful, Samantha ma'am. Very good. Anyone? Anybody who wants to share their understanding, reflection, comment? If not, then I think in the next week onwards, we will be studying this, what is Saddhamma, and each of the section and subsections of what is Saddhamma at length. And I think that will give us more clarity of what is Saddhamma. So thank you so much for joining in today, and see you in the next class.